Hi, everyone. Welcome. I'm Jess with Mid-Michigan Moms, and I am so excited to be here today with Dr. Shannon from Thrive Wellness Center in Saline, Michigan. Welcome, Dr. Shannon.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes. Today, we are going to talk all about how Dr. Shannon and her entire team at Thrive Wellness Center can help new moms, hopeful moms, expecting moms during this awesome baby sprinkle event that we are hosting. And we're going to kind of just jump right in. I have some questions for you, Dr. Shannon, and we are so excited. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Awesome.
So my first question is, can you tell us a little bit about what you do at Thrive Wellness Center and how you can really impact expecting moms, maybe moms who are hopeful and are looking into becoming a mom in the near future, as well as moms who, are just venturing into that newborn baby phase?
Sure. What we do here at Thrive, I'm a chiropractor by training, but I do primarily what's called clinical nutrition. And I have two other practitioners here in the office that do the same. And we love to taking care of moms, expectant moms. Women are definitely the focus of our practice. And we really like to bring something else to the table, like really balance out nutrition, balance out their diet, and it's very individualized. So I've taken care of many women over the years who have had trouble conceiving, some who have had multiple losses, some who are seasoned moms and they're just, at sort of the end of childbearing and they want to have one more baby, and all the way through just, your run of the mill, so to speak, regular
Mm-hmm.
woman who's ready and interested in having a healthy pregnancy. And of course, we do take care of newborns as well. And really, what we have to
Oh,
offer
good.
is a different perspective. So, obviously, all these people are under medical care. They have whatever they have, a midwife or an OBGYN that's taking care of them. But what we want to do is really balance out hormones with nutrition. And that can actually be done without using hormones, without using medications. A lot of women have been on birth control in the past. So making sure that coming off of birth control, that things are balanced out, because that can be a trick for some women,
Okay.
especially. We do a lot with thyroid imbalance, stress imbalance. No one escapes the stress, especially not in 2020 and 2021. But
Mm-hmm.
that's something that can affect your fertility, affect your ability to become pregnant or stay pregnant. So we're looking at making sure the body has everything it needs. There's a lot of moving parts that go into conception and pregnancy and fertility. And those are all the things that we have expertise in, and we have really good results.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Yes, that's so good. So good. I feel like so many moms and so many just women in general these days, they, like you said, they have their physician, their OBGYN or their midwife, but they're looking for that little bit of help or maybe a lot of help with
Mm,
those natural, holistic ways. And so I'm thankful for you. And I know a lot of moms are probably just as thankful too for all the
yeah.
expertise that you and your team have.
Thank you. And one of the things we run into a lot, a lot of women come in and they say, I feel like I have some hormonal imbalance, but I've had blood work done and it's normal. And my doctor said, the blood work's normal, so there's not much we can do. And really, it's taking it to that next level. Like there's a lot that can be done to support a thyroid or support ovaries if somebody has PCOS or, whatever
Okay.
diagnosis it is or not.
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't have a diagnosis. They just know their cycles are irregular. They're having trouble with ovulation. They're having trouble with painful periods, blood sugar balance, all of those things, and they all play a role. And so those are the types of things where we come in and say, hey, let's just tweak a few things, all natural,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes herbs, but mostly nutrients that we're using and nutritional supplements, and really just get great results doing that.
Awesome. So
Yeah.
good. So oftentimes, I know when I was pregnant and planning on breastfeeding, I had so many friends and family members telling me, you will be hungry all the time when you are nursing that baby or pumping because your body is just, using everything that you have.
Mhm.
Can you talk to us a little bit about how many calories, what are some of the just general nutritional deficits that come out of breastfeeding and milk production and even pumping for those moms who are planning on doing that?
Yeah, it is true. You actually need more calories to most women, I'm generalizing because we do everything individualized, but most
Hmm.
women do need more calories when they're breastfeeding than they even do during the third trimester in
Wow.
order to produce enough adequate milk. They really need enough hydration. So that's another thing
Okay.
that, and you know, the having a newborn makes it that much more difficult to have enough food and enough water because you're running around doing all the other things and you're tired usually because you're not sleeping very well. So it is true that you need to optimize those things. So some people look at the calorie level, like what might be required, and they think, oh my gosh, I'm just going to be eating all the time, nonstop. I can't even chew that much. What we recommend is to really optimize fat intake and protein intake because those are going to be your nutrient dense foods and your dense nutrient dense and calorie dense foods.
Okay.
So as opposed to like eating crackers all day long, which will provide calories but not a lot of substance, doing more fats, doing more proteins can really be helpful. And the other thing that we help moms with too is it does matter. So we'll check newborns and breastfeeding infants to see are there any food sensitivities that they have, because that's the other thing. Sometimes if
Yes.
the baby's having trouble with gas or trouble with an aversion to breastfeeding or aversion to breast milk, then not only do we check, I would check chiropractically to make sure their neck and their jaw is aligned properly, because that can definitely change their ability to latch. But also looking at are there some
Mhm.
foods that mom's ingesting that aren't agreeing so well with baby.
Okay.
So those are the types of things that we would be looking at on an individual basis. But
Okay.
in general, optimizing fat intake, optimizing so literally adding fat to everything, putting plenty of dressing on your salad, putting plenty of coconut oil in your smoothie, that sort of thing, and that will really help a lot with production.
I was going to ask for some examples. So those are
Absolutely,
good examples. So it's as
yeah.
easy as adding some extra coconut oil to
Mhm.
your smoothie, your afternoon
Mhm.
smoothie.
Yep, eating eggs as long as you and baby both tolerate them is another easy way. Good quality mayonnaise, you know, like
Hmm.
egg salad instead of just plain old eggs.
Yeah.
If you're using like a avocado oil mayonnaise, something that's a higher quality, that can be a really helpful way to get that in as well. And oftentimes supplementing with either a fish oil or a flax oil, that can also be helpful at getting enough calories and enough nutrients.
Sounds easy enough,
Hmm.
but it's not always that easy when you have a new baby. But
Not at
those are
all.
good tips, good, easy tips.
Thank you.
Um, what are some common nutritional needs when we are pregnant? I know you talked about it's probably, focusing on fats and protein, but are there any other recommendations that you will generally give moms when they are expecting?
Eating enough of the foods, and then the other thing is eating them frequently enough. So the kind of the same things I mentioned already with breastfeeding are important, but I think a lot of times, especially if it's someone who's working or has other children at home, you might go 3, 4 hours without having anything to eat. And ideally, especially once you're into second and third trimester, eating really regularly, like a couple bites every hour, even, can be helpful at keeping energy balanced, keeping blood sugar balanced, preventing high blood pressure, which is a major concern
Hmm.
in pregnancy, preeclampsia. So, having that little bit of protein on a really regular basis can help mitigate a lot of the trouble that some moms run into. It can also help with it's kind of counterintuitive, but it can also help with morning sickness and nausea. So if it's first trimester and someone's having a lot of trouble with morning sickness, a lot of times what I'm recommending is, a bite or two of food every hour, even at night. I mean, obviously you're not going to wake yourself up every hour,
Hmm.
but if you do wake up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom, which is pretty typical, having a bite of something next to the bed to take, because that can really help to mitigate some of those symptoms as well.
That's good to know. That was one of the
Yeah.
questions that we were going to
Hmm.
talk about next were some, remedies for that nausea and morning sickness.
Yep.
Okay. And what are some foods, like a nightstand snack?
Hmm.
What would be the first thing that you would grab to put on your nightstand for that?
Yeah, it's a little bit of like a trail mix or mixed nuts sort of thing. If
Okay.
somebody doesn't tolerate mixed nuts, then I like the little chicken snack sticks. Obviously the ones that don't have too much uh, extra stuff added into them.
Mhm.
But something like a chicken jerky or turkey jerky, something like that, a couple bites can be helpful.
Okay,
If
good.
you want to get really fancy, get a mini fridge, but you know.
Yeah, that would be perfect. Little mini fridge, wake up and use the restroom and say, oh, I'll just
Absolutely.
grab my snack out of here.
That's
That's,
right. Get some milk. Yeah.
yeah. Um, how about tips for when baby starts eating baby's first foods? I see things all over, like
Mhm.
from, west to east, talking about baby's foods, what you should do, what you shouldn't do. What are
Mhm.
your tips and recommendations for those baby's first bite of food? Because it's so fun to when you
Mhm.
start that.
Yes. So I have used over the years different nutritional sort of protocols and philosophies. The one that seems most enduring is from Weston A. Price. And so Weston Price was actually a dentist back in the 20s and 30s, and he was interested in helping with tooth decay, actually,
Oh.
which of course moms are interested in that too. But he traveled all over the world, and he went into places where people were mostly eating the foods they had always eaten, traditional foods, so tribal cultures, as opposed to the industrialized foods that they were starting to see back then. So they weren't more processed foods and things like that were making their way into the American diet. And so he looked at more of the traditional foods. So the traditional foods would be things like eggs, milk. Raw milk is what he looked at. So as opposed to pasteurized milk, which is what most people are familiar with these days, uh, fish eggs, so caviar. Um, things that we don't think of really as baby's first foods necessarily, fish.
Hmm.
But these are things that are high in nutrients, nutrient dense, fat dense. So, what we know about a baby's growing brain is that they have to have a lot of fat in order to build their brain and nervous system. And they're not allergy type foods either. So, when you look at egg yolk, that's not an allergen. Egg whites are often an allergen, but egg yolks are less often a problem. When you look at fish and fish eggs, those are things that are not really a problem. So I actually always defer back to Weston Price and his work. And there's a great couple of books that have been put out by um, the people that now follow in his footsteps. And they talk about egg yolk, lightly cooked egg yolk, and caviar as
And
being.
your daughter loves caviar, right?
She
I think I
does.
remember talking about this.
She does. It's perfect. It's like little finger food because it's
Yeah.
little, she picks it up one at a time.
Uh-huh.
It's a little sticky, so you have to get the wipes out. But
Yeah.
that's what we started with. We started with egg yolk and the salmon roe, which are
Okay.
the largest little caviars. So kind of thinking outside the box. Because unfortunately, the first baby foods that a lot of people think of are mostly carbohydrates and mostly highly processed. So when you look at cereals and things like that, they're processed or fortified, which means they're adding in artificial vitamins as opposed to just finding a food that's high in nutrients to start.
Hmm.
And that's really why we defer back to the more natural foods that have those nutrients already in place. So we know that fish oil is excellent for developing brains, and that's pretty much all that's in the caviar, and a little salt.
Some foods that I would not have thought of.
Mm-mm.
How about like avocados? I know our daughter, when she was a baby, she loved avocado, and those are high in fat, right?
Yes, yep. So avocado is going to be another great one. Real food,
Okay.
high in fat, definitely.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Now I'm thinking about all these things, trying some caviar for
Yeah,
our son is too, but to think
yeah,
about that, that
absolutely.
might be kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's talk about hormones. This
Yeah,
is something that I love listening to you about in your videos that you guys post on social and on your YouTube channel. Balancing hormones during pregnancy. How can we do that? And then we'll go into balancing those hormones after birth.
sure. Some of the things that I've already mentioned would probably be the most important. So when you look at hormones, there's many different types of hormones, and hormones are really just chemical messengers that are circulating in the blood. So the different hormonal organs in our body would include the thyroid, the ovaries, the adrenal glands, and there's several others, of course. And they're really putting out messages as information and communication. So if the thyroid gland produces a certain hormone, that's going to tell the other hormonal organs what to work harder or work less. That's the essence of what hormones are. So it's normal in pregnancy. Of course, your hormones are what drives pregnancy. right? So the progesterone levels go way up to sustain the pregnancy. And most women are, we're sort of used to saying like, well, I'm hormonal, or my
Mm-hmm.
hormones are going crazy or something like that. It's sort of true. More often, what I find is that probably you're not quite nourished, or having some ups and downs that are based a little bit more on blood sugar. And so when we look at the hormone that has to do with blood sugar, that there's a couple of them. Insulin is a major one, and cortisol actually has a lot to do with blood sugar as well. So, if you don't sleep well at night, the next day you're really hungry. That's because your cortisol levels are too high. If you eat a lot of sugar, your body has to release insulin in order to change that sugar into something usable. So, my approach, whether someone's pregnant or not, to balancing out insulin and other hormone levels is to try to eat frequent small meals that are high in protein and fat and not too high in carbohydrates, especially refined carbohydrates. So in pregnancy, you're not going to necessarily be restricting carbohydrates the same way you would if you're not pregnant,
Mm-hmm.
but you do want to make sure that those carbohydrates are high in fiber. So things like sweet potatoes as opposed to white potatoes. Not eating, sometimes over the years, and maybe not so much anymore, but I think over the years, pregnant women have been given license to eat all the ice cream that they want because they're sort of like celebrating, like, oh, I
Mm-hmm.
need the calories.
Yeah.
I would not recommend that. So if you want to
Okay.
do ice cream, that's fine. You can make it yourself from full fat milk and not too much sweetener, like a higher quality, something like that. So to
Yeah.
get the calories, but these really sugary, really highly processed foods, they set you up on a roller coaster with your insulin levels and your blood sugar, which then, of course, can translate into a roller coaster with emotions. You see
Okay.
this very obviously in
I like
children.
that.
You see it in kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like they have the sugary breakfast and then you take them grocery shopping, and 2 hours later they're like having a tantrum in the middle of the grocery store. That's their blood sugar crashing because they didn't eat enough protein in the morning. They had pancakes or they had cereal or whatever they
Mm-hmm.
had. So it's very demonstrable in children. As adults, we behave differently. We don't throw ourselves on the floor and, have a tantrum, but
Mm-hmm.
it feels that way. It feels like you want to. You just
Right.
refrain,
Yes.
So the
Yeah.
same thing is happening. So those are the types of things that I'd be looking at. In addition to, we do use, different minerals, iodine, B vitamins, things like that, to try to balance out and really just supply those hormonal organs with what they need. So that's more of an individualized type thing. But in general, yeah, I'd still be looking at eating frequently, not too many high sugar, high starch foods.
Okay. And so a mom could come to you then. She would go through her first appointment with you, correct?
Yep.
You would look at all those things with her and you would probably usually recommend your nutrition response testing, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
It
So
would
you'll
be
do that.
identifying. Yep.
Okay. And then you would then create an individualized plan.
Correct.
Just trying to give moms an example of, what that appointment with you would look like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we always want to do, regardless of pregnancy status, we would always want to know history, hormone history, especially, right? If they've had trouble with their cycles or not. We talk about digestion, we talk about energy, we talk about mood, sleep, all the kind of main things, and then whatever specific concerns someone might have about their own health.
Okay.
And then we look at their diet over a period of time. So I actually have people keep food logs, and we actually look at them, weekly for a while, to see what we could change. So it's never drastic. It's not like, take away everything you're eating and start fresh. We don't do that
Mm-hmm.
because it's not that successful, quite frankly. It's
Okay.
overwhelming to try to change too many things at once. And then the other thing would be that we look at if there are any specific organs that are under stress, that they might need some specific nutrients. Everything we use in pregnancy is and breastfeeding are totally natural. Nothing that would be. We don't use hormones. We don't use any medication,
Okay.
and nothing that would be obviously harmful or dangerous to mom or baby. So we're careful about that and well versed in how that looks too.
Awesome.
Thanks.
And the last, we talked a lot about this.
Mhm.
Give me your top 5 snacks for easy and healthy snacks for moms. What are you snacking on throughout the day?
Mhm.
Can you take us through that so we can get some
Yeah,
ideas?
for sure. I'm a big fan of apples with peanut butter or
Okay.
almond butter, depending on the person. You can, if you don't do nuts, then you could also even do sunflower butter.
Okay.
So I always just recommend getting one without any sugar added. Celery is the other thing that's a good carrier for those sorts of things. A good quality hummus and vegetables. So that's a nice balance. You get a lot of fiber and you get the protein and the fat kind of mixed in.
Okay.
So that's what I'm going for there. I like trail mix, but you have to be careful about which kind of trail mix because a lot of them have a lot of garbage and, of course, always M&Ms added in, right?
Yes.
So I usually make my own trail mix. So some
Okay.
good quality raw nuts, salted is fine. And then adding in maybe a little bit of low sugar chocolate chips, or you could do a little bit of dried fruit, but you want to make it heavier on the nut side, lighter on the sweet side.
Okay.
Yeah. I actually there's some grain-free pretzels that I like. They're not very high in protein, but they are at least something crunchy. And you could definitely dip them in your hummus or
That sounds good.
I like goat cheese, like soft goat cheese with pretzels. Quinn pretzels are awesome. They're so crunchy that you don't even need that many and you feel crunched out. And was that 4 or 5? Yeah, I'll do 5. The other one that I really do like those sort of snack sticks. There's a couple of different, there's a lot of different brands these days that make higher quality, like chicken sticks or beef sticks that don't have a ton of salt and a ton of additives that are pretty good quality. Those are so handy. I always have them they're always in my my briefcase and my purse and my glove box. I have them everywhere. I have them stashed everywhere. You never know when you're going to need a quick snack that doesn't have to be refrigerated.
Right. And those are high in protein, right? So that kind of
Totally.
a simple little snack that's high in protein.
Absolutely.
Nice. Oh, I have learned so much.
Oh, good.
And I hope that everyone who is listening today, I hope that you have all learned something too. That is the last of my interview questions for you, Dr. Shannon. Thank you for being here with us today. We are thrilled to have Dr. Shannon as an expert panelist during our baby sprinkle. You can continue to follow along with Dr. Shannon and Thrive Wellness Center on Facebook and Instagram and her YouTube channel where she shares a variety of natural health and nutrition tips and tricks and all the goodness. So I invite you to follow along with them there. Thanks so much. Yes, enjoy the rest of your day and thank you everyone for watching.
Thanks everyone.